yourself and let us know how the weather is at your end.
Okay. Good day, everyone. My name is Kingsley Ukebu. I'm joining from Port Harcourt, and the weather is cloudy,
Oh, great.
but still favorable.
Yes. Rachel, you're next.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Rachel and I'm SCAAD Project Officer Scotland, and I'm happy to be here. It's actually raining over here. Just trying to get out of the rain because I was actually driving initially. But I'm really happy to be here and be a part of the discourse as well.
Welcome, Rachel. Okay, up next is Dixon.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm joining from Life Camp Abuja, and the weather is a bit cloudy and it's cold here.
Oh, great. I don't know if I've called everyone. I think I can. Okay, SCM Nigeria. Introduce yourself.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is Ozioko Chidebere. I'm joining from Abuja, and the weather has been cool.
Oh, great. Welcome. So, Oriya, Dr. Oriya.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm joining from Jos, and like Mubarak said, the weather is a bit cloudy, it's a bit cold, and we're expecting the rains any moment from now. I can see the indication on my computer that it's about to rain. So, thank you very much.
Oh, great. Wow. It seems like we are all calling in from different parts of Nigeria and even internationally. It's nice to have a wide variety of persons in different locations, and it also tells us something because we are talking about agriculture and we are in the rainy season. I think this is the right time for us to have this discussion, because we know that for farmers, whether it's cloudy or it's cool, for farmers, it's an interesting time because it is a time that helps planted things we have planted to grow and all that. It also helps with cutting down on the stress of having to water our different farmlands. So it is nice to have each and every one of us. So we are back again for the second day, and this program is organized by SCAAD Initiative, which is Sustainable Collective Advocacy for African Development. As an organization, we're young, we're focused on our thematic areas are young people. We try to empower young people. We focus on sustainable agriculture and also environmental justice. And for so far, one of our leg, which is sustainable agriculture, we have done a lot of training young people on poultry farming, homegrown farming. We've had a lot of successes. In short, one of the successes is the WhatsApp group we formed, which is the Young Farmers Club, where young people interact. They share their successes, their challenges. We also have experts who try to ensure they answer such questions. And once in a month, we organize trainings like this to also encourage young people, for people to look at other creative ways as they farm, as they grow, as they also explore the agricultural sector. So we are really excited to be here. We're glad to have you all. And we're excited with the rich resource person we have in the person of Dr. Oriya. For those who were not here yesterday, we want to do a brief recap of what we have done. So what we did yesterday. So Dr. Oriya introduced the low-cost, sustainable, climate smart, sustainable agricultural techniques that are viable in the current dispensation we are in. And he talked about how we can ensure that we don't waste everything in the farm. So he talks about even from the way we set up, we can have everything from poultry farming to piggery to producing biogas, also to using it to using even our household waste to generate biogas. So he talked about how to ensure that there is sustainability, that there is use of everything. Even to those who are into farming, even the chaff from our corns can be used to generate, to feed livestock, to feed poultry farmers. Also, we can also convert our bio waste in a way that profits us. We can use it to cook, we can use it to do other things. So he went deep into sustainable ways we can actually transform farming techniques. So he also talked about, he went further to show us a video of how it is being done. We'll be sharing that. If you're in the WhatsApp group, we'll be sharing the link to the WhatsApp group so that I can join. We'll be sharing that particular video there because of time. I don't think Dr. Ria will be able to show that again, but we are glad to have you back. But on the platform, we'll be sharing the slides and also the videos so that we can recap and we can properly look at what we have done. Thank you to all those who are currently on the team. Don't miss any opportunity. Try to stay to the end. If you have questions, just drop them on the comments section. So I'll be calling on my colleague Dozier to reintroduce our resource person, and then we'll go ahead from there. Dozier, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ma, for the recap. Our resource person, we learned a lot from him, the person of Dr. Orinya A. Orinya. He's a doctor of veterinary medicine with a master's degree in animal production from the College of Veterinary Medicine, University of Rwanda. He brings over a decade of experience in veterinary medicine and agricultural initiatives. As a member of the Chartered Institute of Strategic Management of Nigeria, Dr. Agbaji has empowered over 500 women in Nasarawa alone by training them in sustainable poultry farming, helping them establish backyard poultry farms to support household food security, amongst other things he's doing. Yesterday was an explosive time. Personally, I learned a lot from him, especially when he talked about the stages of life. It was very impactful. So today we are going to be having him again today to take us to a higher level in in today. So we call on Dr. Rin Agbaji to take the stage, please.
All right. Thank you very
Hello.
much. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you all of you who have taken the time to be part of this engagement today. Just to add to the 500 you mentioned, 500 women in Nasarawa, I think sometime in 2019, Love FM sent 200 widows that I also trained in poultry farming, and we're able to help them to set up backyard poultry farms in their homes. And up till now, people have been wondering how I was able to visit the 200 widows. And I said, look, I was able to go to their houses one after the other to help them to set up this backyard poultry farm. So this is just about commitment and commitment to food security, commitment to reducing unemployment in Nigeria, and whatever knowledge that we are gaining from this engagement today, don't just find a way to pass this knowledge to other people. So sorry, there was an interruption. Okay, so today we'll be talking about two main things as part of what we started yesterday. We'll be looking at, and thanks to Frances for the recap. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
thank you,
we're hearing
Francis.
you.
Yeah. So it has made the job even easier. So today we'll be looking at the agricultural value chain, and then we'll be looking at agriculture in a VUCAD world. Agriculture in a VUCAD world. Uh, we'll be breaking that down in a bit. So for agricultural value chain, we'll be looking at the different segments that make up the value chain. And as we look at the segments, you begin to think which area you can fall into. Every segment of the value chain is an opportunity. Every segment creates different opportunities for different people. And like I always say, the I'm not among those who think or believe that there is unemployment in Nigeria or there are no jobs to do in Nigeria. I've never believed that for one day. There's a lot of things we can do to make money. Maybe you can say the kind of job that you, or your dream job, you can't find you are not able to get your dream job. That's understandable. But to say that there are no jobs in this country or there is nothing you can do to make money is not true. So we'll be looking at the agricultural value chain, and then for each segment, it's important that you do an X-ray to understand what are the opportunities for me in this particular segment. How can I improve on a particular segment of the value chain that can make me earn some money? So the value chain is the full range of activities that businesses employ to bring a product. It has a lot of activities. It's a useful way that you understand, production up to the point of selling. So producing, to buying, to selling. So every agricultural product has its unique value chain. So it will not be easy for us in this engagement to begin to look at all the products, but we can just pick one or two and use as examples. So every product has a unique value chain. And within the African agricultural sector, opportunities exist to improve and add more value for increased benefit to all stakeholders. So all you need to do is, how do you improve in a particular segment? How do you improve or add value to a particular segment of the value chain that can, bring money into your pocket? Now, why is it important for us to learn about the value chain? Why is it important for us to learn about the value chain? The first thing is entrepreneurial opportunities. So when you understand the value chain, it will help you to identify profitable entry points that are beyond farming, entry points like processing, like packaging, logistics, providing agri-tech solutions. So there are so many entrepreneurial opportunities along the value chain. So once you understand it, you know, just, just feel, look for which of the segments you think that you have capacity to improve. Sometimes it could just be, adding a little ingredient to a particular processed food, and then it changes, the entire system, and drags customers to your own product. So there are entrepreneurial opportunities on each of these value chain. And the second one is job creation. So when you have knowledge of the value chain, it's not just only about cultivation. You will know that farming is not just about cultivation, but it's also about service provision. You see, talk about marketing, you look at finance, look at ICT, so it creates diverse career paths. You'll be surprised that most of the people, I'm sure we'll come to that, who make money from agriculture are not the people who go to farm, not the people who do the actual farming. The people who make the money are not those who go to farm. So there are opportunities for job creation in different segments, including marketing, finance, and ICT. And then innovation and technology use. In countries like Rwanda, for instance, if you are in a different province and your cow is on heat and you want to perform artificial insemination, the whole process of, the expensive process of going to store semen, you boycott those processes with technology by use of drones. You could send a drone from one province with semen to another province within minutes, and the semen is preserved, is still viable, and then you send it for artificial insemination. So people use all kinds of innovation. They use drones to monitor even weather conditions, to check for pests in farms. So ICT, innovation and technology use, mobile applications. I don't know if Nehemiah is on this call. At the point we were talking about some of the mobile applications he's developing. Can develop mobile apps like ordinary farmers can use. And then these days we are looking at precision farming. We'll come to that. That will improve efficiency, and also market access. And then empowerment through knowledge. When you have the awareness of the value chain, it will equip you to negotiate better with buyers. If you understand the value chain, it will equip you. You will be able to negotiate better with buyers. You will be able to avoid exploitation. And then you can scale your agribusiness. The value chain has a lot of players, a lot of players. And if you don't have that understanding, you can be exploited. The activities of middlemen. At some point, I was supplying day-old chicks, and I learned something, even though I learned the hard way. This particular guy who supplies me from a hatchery in Ibadan, I didn't know that the guy has left the company and set up his own company. So, but he was supplying me those birds with the packaging of the original company, and the company didn't know. And he was getting his birds from an inferior, in fact, he set up his own private hatchery, but he didn't have good parent stocks. So his birds were not good. And I was just suffering until I traveled there myself and discovered that this guy, has been defrauding me. So if you have the knowledge of the value chain, it will you avoid exploitation, and you make the best use of opportunities. And then resilience and adaptability. When you learn how all parts of the value chain connect, it will help you to design, all kinds of businesses within the value chain that can withstand certain shocks and certain disruptions that come as a result of market changes. Now, it's important for us to look at the major segments of the value chain. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
sir, we can see.
Okay, so what can you see on my screen? Can somebody read?
Yes.
What are the
Okay.
points along the
What are the
agricultural value chains?
Absolutely. So what are the points along the agricultural value chain? It's important for us to understand the different points along the agricultural value chain. You could look at them as segments. You could also look at them as points of entry. So we will look at the value chain as like a spectrum, a two-edged spectrum. One end has the producers and the other end has the consumers. So in between this end of the producers and the consumers, you have what we call the intermediaries. The intermediaries. Those intermediaries are those that enhance and improve the value chain. I don't want to call them middlemen because middlemen have some negative connotation. So you call them intermediaries that enhance and improve the value chain, from suppliers to brokers, transporters, wholesalers, manufacturers, packagers, sellers, policymakers, and even researchers. All these ones are found within the intermediaries. Those are the intermediaries. But the most important
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
Sorry to cut you. Do you mind zooming in? I think if you can like put it on a presentation mode, it's a bit behind. That's the
Okay,
slide. Yes, thank you.
let me just put it. Is it clearer now?
Yes, it is.
Yes, yes.
So,
Doctor,
clear.
doctor, sir,
yes, sir.
if you put your cursor on the slide show,
Okay, you want the slideshow?
then that will be make it bigger, and then start from the beginning better. And that's what they are asking for.
Okay. So, okay, just a minute. Okay, so can you see my screen now?
Yes, it's great now.
It's clearer now. It's better. Now we can see.
I think I have to. I don't know why my Zoom is appearing in two places.
And probably you logged in with two different.
Just a minute. Let me end it first. Is it still on full screen? Hello?
Okay, no, it has gone back to its initial size. But if it's
Okay, give
difficult,
me a
maybe you can just zoom in a bit. If it's difficult
Okay, I will
to,
just zoom in because
I see
I am
full
not able to
screen.
see some of the. Huh?
Yeah. Okay,
Can you see
no, it's okay. Yeah, I
you
see
can still
full
see the
screen.
presentation?
yes, we can see. Just go ahead.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so I was looking at the different segments of the value chain, and I said it's important that we look at how the different actors that are on the value chain. And if you look at agriculture from right from time, you will see that there is a major shift from what we used to have before and what we currently have. And one major shift that we have currently is around the food processing. Okay, so unlike those days, you just pick food from the farm, to the consumer. So but today there's a lot of things that are done around food processing. So the food that we buy from the grocery stores don't just get there in one day. Okay, so there are so many things that have taken place before that food get to that particular place. So if you look at one of the areas that is very, very important in the value chain is the area of the farm inputs. The farm inputs. A lot of people neglect the impact that the farm inputs make, especially the intermediaries that fall within the line of the farm inputs. The farm inputs, like the seeds, the fertilizers, the crop protection, like the pesticides. The intermediaries that fall around these farm inputs, if anything goes wrong, especially around the seeds, everything else in the value chain is affected. That's how powerful the farm inputs are. And that's why you see that there's a lot of research, going on around the farm inputs, the seeds, parent stock, the kind of fertilizer, the manipulations around fertilizer, manipulation around the parent stock. So the farm inputs, the intermediaries that are working around these farm inputs, they play critical roles in whatever happens within the value chain. Then the farming itself, like first the crop production. The crops are sold, for different reasons. Crops are sold, you can sell directly as animal feed or livestock. Okay, so or consumption. So the intermediaries from the farm inputs to the farming itself play a critical role in whatever ends up in the hands of the consumers. So the food value chain is a complex sector in its own right, and there's often, like I said, a web of producers, a web of distributors that are involved before each food, reaches our grocery stores. So, like I said, some of the crops, they can make their way, to a different value chain altogether. Some can go into even the production of biofuels. Some of the crops can go into biofuels, or some can even go into production of fibers, and then others go into food processing. But in many cases, the framed outputs go through the intermediary steps that we mentioned earlier, that are usually called the trading or the processing. So different things must have happened around those steps between trading and processing. And then the traders, you'll be surprised that they take, very little. They get very little. I mean, the traders, the farmers rather get very little. But those who are trading within those intermediaries are the ones who get the most of it. In fact, recently, where I was talking with somebody about a fish farm, and I said, look, if you look at the fish value chain, the people who grow the fish themselves don't make as much money as the uplifters. And the ones who export this fish make up to 5 times profit than the producers themselves. So you see how complex the value chain is. And that's why it's important to understand how each of the segments work and where the most of the money is made in the value chain. At some point, we'll talk about the value chain analysis and see what we can make out of it. So now, what are the opportunities? What are the opportunities for skilled professionals in the agricultural value chain? It's important to understand for every segment what opportunities are available. So it's important for us to do a value chain analysis, to be able to learn about specific opportunities that one can leverage on, for a particular value chain. And there are specific questions you must ask when you are doing your value chain analysis. The first question is, who are the main actors within the value chain? Who are the main actors within the value chain? You need to understand who the main actors are and what are their roles and what are their functions. Because if you don't know who the main actors are, you don't know who to go to for a particular thing. So you must understand who are the main actors, what are their specific roles, and then what are their strengths and their weaknesses within the value chain. If you understand their strengths and their weaknesses, you can immediately understand which area to key into. Because what brings money into your pocket is value addition. If I understand your weakness and I try to add value to that product to turn your weakness into strength, it will bring money to my pocket. And then you ask, where is the majority of money being made in the value chain? Like for instance, I give you an instance of the fish farming. The fish farming, the majority of money made in the fish farming is from those people who are exporting. Some of these people you see driving big cars in Abuja, go and check, some of them are just collecting fish and exporting, and they are receiving money in dollars. So it's important to know in the value chain, where is the majority of the money made? And then who are the beneficiaries? We'll use the poultry value chain as an example. And it's a very, very interesting value chain. If you look at the poultry production value chain, there are so many interesting things that go on there that, you know, a lot of people make a lot of money from, you know. So from the parent stock, for instance, the parent stock, take broilers, for example. If you have good parent stock of broilers, you know, there's tendency that a lot of people will come, you know, buying your day-old chicks. So that's the level of the input suppliers, the hatcheries. In fact, before you even talk about the hatcheries, talk about the parent stock. Where are you getting your parent stock from? So if you have good parent stock, your birds are ready within 6 to 8 weeks. But sometimes if your parent stock are very bad and not very good, you can feed these broilers for 10 weeks and they have not really attained the kind of weight they are supposed to attain. In fact, in 6 weeks, if you see good parent stock, they are weighing as much as almost up to 7 to 8 kg at 6 to 7 weeks. So you need to find out who are the main actors. Where do people get their parent stock from? You know, the problem is that the parent stock that many of the hatcheries use, there has been some series of, you know, manipulations. You know, people don't want to spend money to import new parent stock, so they begin to try as much as possible to make use of the ones they have. And so there are several crosses and manipulations that reduces, you know, the viability and the potency of the parent stock. And that's why you see that farmers continue to struggle. So imagine that you have that connection or you have that knowledge about where to get this parent stock that would, you know, change the game within the broiler production value chain. And then the hatcheries. A lot of things happen around that, around hatchery operations. You know, some farmers who may not know, you buy birds and then you have within the first 1 week, you have an outbreak of omphalitis, for instance. Omphalitis did not come from your farm. It came from the hatchery. So if you keep buying birds from hatcheries that you eventually end up with omphalitis that will give you high level of mortality, then there's a problem. So you now have your own, what is the reason? You have your own segment, or you set up a mini hatchery, even if it is with kerosene incubators, that you begin to take care of the problem of omphalitis or typhoid, you call it salmonellosis. You know, you have a hatchery that takes care of those. Already you have changed the game. And then farmers begin to buy and they see that, oh, if you buy from this hatchery, you don't get the problem of omphalitis, you don't get salmonella. people begin to patronize. So the problem is a lot of people, because they have made a name. I don't want to call names of some of these hatcheries, because you have made a name from the beginning. There's no consistency. All right, there's no consistency. So people just continue patronizing them because these guys already have established a brand, but you are still having problems. Okay, so hatcheries, from the parent stock to the hatcheries, and then the feed mills. Yesterday we talked about climate smart agriculture. We talked about how alternative protein sources for feed. So that would be another segment that you could leverage on, to say, look, now we are producing high quality feed. The feed may be more expensive, but high quality because of the ingredients. You are using materials that you are not using chemicals. For instance, if you look at some of the feeds, most of the feeds that are being produced, they use drugs like tetracyclines and some antibiotics in their feed. Some of these things also pose threats even to humans and even to the animals, because it can lead to antibiotic resistance. And then another area is veterinary supplies, supplying of vaccines, supplying of drugs, and supply of equipment. And then move to the level of the farmers or producers themselves, the smallholder poultry keepers, the medium scale commercial farmers, even the large scale industrial farmers. These are different segments. You may not have the kind of money to go into large scale industrial farms, but you can function around either smallholder or small scale commercial farming. At some point, I was supplying a hotel with 100 kg of meat every week. We signed a contract. In fact, they almost sent me to jail when I couldn't supply at some point. So small scale poultry. Sometimes some of the chickens that you eat, especially those of you, well, let me not demarcate any organization. Some of the chickens you eat, you'll be surprised they are even 2 weeks old chicks that they prepare for you and you eat. Some of them are not mature chicks, they're not mature chickens. So some of those hotels, they are not interested in whether the chickens are mature or not. They just tell you, bring 100 kg. They just wait, the meat is up to 100 kg. They pay you your money. Whether you kept them for up to 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, they don't care. So you can have your own unique, product. All right. Yesterday I was discussing with the client that, look, if you check, there was a research in Maiduguri, I think I mentioned it yesterday, that 90% of samples collected were found to contain some certain level of antibiotics, which pose a threat to human health, to public health, because these things are leading to antibiotic resistance in humans. So imagine that you have a poultry or your own smallholder poultry. You don't use antibiotics because of certain knowledge you have around the feed formulation. You don't use antibiotics in your feed. You don't use antibiotics in your beds. And people know that, look, whatever meat they are getting from your farm is safe. So at the level of the farm, at the level of farmers, at the level of the producers, there are different opportunities that we can leverage on. And then service providers, which some of us also fall into, vets, extension officers, and then even the transporters. You don't want to know how much money those who transport day-old chicks make in a week. So they supply day-old chicks twice every week. And for each day-old chick, now I think it's about 150 naira for transportation. And one bus can take up to 5,000. So if you check 150 naira times 5,000, it's about 750,000 naira per trip. Per trip, 750,000 naira per trip for transportation only. So there are so numerous opportunities. All right. As consultants, as extension officers, if you have, there are certain knowledge that you can get. You can train yourself, do certain courses that can make you become an extension worker. All right. And then the processors, the slaughterhouses. You will be shocked that if, in fact, at the time I was doing my clinicals, we were going for abattoir, meat inspection in abattoir. Throughout that period, I wasn't eating meat. Throughout that period, I wasn't eating meat. And the reason is simple. What you see in the abattoir is terrible. In fact, you see certain meat that are supposed to be condemned. Certain meat, in fact, in some instances, we found tuberculosis. If you find tuberculosis in any meat, you condemn the entire meat. And by law, government is supposed to compensate the farmer or whoever is selling that, the vendor. But because of delays, in fact, you eventually don't even get your compensation. You see all kinds of malpractices. These guys in the abattoir will dress the meat, remove some of those areas that has tuberculous lesions. Some do not even discard those. They still dress them and sell out to dogs or to those who have dogs and all that. And you are wondering why we still have TB cases in Nigeria. So the processors, those slaughterhouses. So imagine that you have a clean abattoir, you have money, you set up a slaughterhouse, and then there are strict regulations. It's neat. In fact, I'm telling you, if you go inside, don't stop at the point of collection. Try to go inside the abattoir and see how meat. Forget that they watch some of these things, and you know that some people don't even cook their meats very well. So if you have any meat that is tuberculosis infected, there's high tendency that it can pass to you. So you have this kind of abattoir that has those clean processes, and then people know about it. People come, they appreciate. I mean, it's a game changer. And then the packaging companies, cold chain operators. So if you are having, you are keeping broilers, for instance, and you know that if they attain the certain, you are supposed to sell them, and if you don't have ready buyers, there's tendency that you lose money because you continue to feed them. So if you have a cold chain operator, you dress them and send them to the cold chain operator for a fee. And that's why we also advise that, if yourself, it goes a long way to reduce the cost of production. So the slaughterhouses, packaging companies, the cold chain operators, there are opportunities along that value chain. And then the traders and the retailers, those wholesalers, the markets, the supermarkets, the restaurants, the street vendor. In fact, I have interacted with a woman who has a restaurant. She says she sells one goat for up to 150,000 naira because she makes pepper soup. She sells one goat for up to 150,000 naira. When we left vet school about a decade ago, one of our colleagues said, look, he is going to be functioning in the abattoir. He's not going to look for a job anywhere. He's just going to stay in the abattoir. And you don't want to know the kind of money this guy makes. He buys cow he goes to the far north, buys cows. He can buy a cow for 150,000 naira and sell it for up to 450,000 naira. That's how much is a professor earning, by the way. So the wholesalers, the retailers in the markets, the supermarkets, you go to ShopRite, you see some of this meat now in the store. They just label them. They tell you this one is 8,000, 10,000. You will be shocked how much money these people are making. So every segment, there are opportunities. And then the consumers, the households, the institutions, the schools, hotels, hospitals, all the value chain. Now, one of the questions we ask is in the value chain analysis is what are their strengths and their weaknesses within the value chain? Strengths and the weaknesses of the actors within the value chain. You will find a point of entry, that can be able to put money in your pocket. Remember we talked about those who function at the input supply. That strong market demand. There is strong market demand, and they have the ability to scale quickly. But the weakness is that there's high cost of feed or raw materials. There's limited. If you understand this weakness, that this high cost of feed is a problem to this person at the level of the input supplier, you will be able to, provide alternative sources. Like we mentioned yesterday, you are able to convert certain raw materials from within the farm, convert them into poultry feeds, like the maggot farms that a lot of people are going into now. It brings down the cost of feed. In fact, it can bring down the cost of feed to as low up to 50%. So if you understand the weaknesses, you'll be able to leverage on those opportunities. And then the farmers and producers, they have growing demand for poultry or meat, eggs. There's job creation potential, but there's a weakness: poor management practices. They have limited access to finance. In fact, one of the organizations where I work, what we do is access to finance. Access to finance. We are not the ones who facilitate directly through to Bank of Industry, for instance. We are also middlemen. So if we facilitate a loan of, say, 5 million naira for you, the organization that we are partnering with takes 2.5%, and we take 1%. I don't know if you understand that. Access to finance. These guys, they need money for their farm, but they don't know how to access this finance. And there are people. So what we basically do, we don't have any connections with the BOI, but we profile the potential clients. We profile them. If they meet the criteria, we take their documents to the organization that has the direct link with the BOI, and we monitor and ensure that the loans are disbursed. Once the loans are disbursed, they give us our percentage. So access to finance is another area. You are not a farmer, but you are earning from what the farmers are doing. And then another weakness is high mortality rates due to disease. How do you prevent that? Yesterday, I shared with you part of my research. I use ginger in broiler farming. That with 5% ginger in feed, you don't have any reason to go and even vaccinate the birds against any disease. You don't have any reason to give antibiotics to your birds. So if you have some of this knowledge, you sell the ideas. In fact, in the farm we are setting up in Abuja, we are looking at producing feed, and these are some of the things that we're going to be applying. The feed may be expensive, but it's cutting costs. It's not just about buying drugs to treat the animals. It prevents the illness and disease. So definitely you expect patronage. And then what are their strengths? And then for service providers, they have strength of knowledge and technical expertise, but limited coverage in rural areas and sometimes costly services. Somebody like me, there's a limit to what we can do. So for instance, if you have this knowledge from this training, you choose to step this knowledge down. We're going to share the slides with you. You choose to step this knowledge down in certain rural area. You can charge a fee. All right. And then processors, they have value addition. They add value through packaging, cold storage, through branding. But most times, poor infrastructure, high energy costs, limited standardization. So how can you use technology to bridge this gap of poor infrastructure or high energy costs? How can you use technology to bridge this? For instance, there's somebody, is late now, Mr. Deme, in Jos. Many years ago, he invented kerosene incubator. Kerosene incubator. So because of high energy cost, because you need light for at least 21 days. Yeah, and in Nigeria, if you don't have alternative power supply, it's difficult to have 21 days power supply, except if you have, maybe you are in band A. Even the band A, I'm not sure they get 21 days power supply without interruption. So this guy invented this kerosene incubator, that will give you power for the whole 21 days without interruption, and you get your chicks out at least 95 to 98% of success. So you look at how do you fit in, which area do you fit in to bridge the gap that can put some money into your pocket. And then the traders and the retailers, they have direct link to end consumers, flexibility in distribution, but many of them don't have cold chain. There's no regulation. They don't have good bargaining power with large producers. And this is one thing that I have seen in certain markets. If you look at some of these traders, you go to some markets to buy something, and you see somebody will just pick you, ask you what you want to buy. You say, I want to buy beans. He will just take you to one shop. You say, he will tell you, yes, I have beans. And you will follow him to the shop. The guy has no shop in that market. He has no shop. But the fact that he has brought you to that shop, at the end of the day, after you have bought your grains, the guy has his own share. All right. So how do some
Hello.
of them don't have that? Yes.
Hello, Doc. Just sorry for cutting you short.
Rounding up.
Yes, we
Okay.
have 10 more minutes,
Oh,
or less than
really?
10 more minutes.
Okay. I'll try to round up. Okay. So, and then the retailers, the consumers, they have strong and growing demand for affordable protein, but they are not sensitive to price fluctuations. Some of them don't even know what is happening. Limited awareness of product quality and safety. So all these areas are areas that you can decide to function. Some people don't understand how prices fluctuate. There are a lot of people who stored grains last year with the hope that this year, the prices of grains will double and they will make a lot of money. Many of them are in trouble today. Many, in fact, if they are to sell some of those grains, especially corn, today, they are not going to get up to half of the price they bought them, because they don't have knowledge about price fluctuations, about the economics. So some of you who studied economics and can understand some of these fluctuations, this is a very good area that you can equally function. And then the question of where the majority of money is made, very critical when you are doing value chain analysis. The largest profit margins are often made by the input suppliers, especially the feed companies and the hatcheries, and then those who are at the export end. The farmers will make money, but often face thin margins due to high cost of feed and input. So, of course, feed and inputs are very, very critical. And then it's also reducing the amount of money that farmers are making. How can you come in to bridge this gap, to also make money for yourself? And then who are the beneficiaries? Large-scale input suppliers and processors are usually the biggest beneficiaries. Those who do food processing, they are the ones who are the biggest beneficiaries. And then the middlemen, the traders, they make steady margins, but from bulk buying and redistribution. So they buy and redistribute. You can buy 10 bags and just have like maybe 2,000 on each bag. And at the end of the day, or you buy and keep for some time, and then the next market day, the prices change. I wanted to buy some potatoes in Jos. And when I asked how much is a bag now, they said it's 37,000. And just 2 weeks ago, it was about 30,000 or so. So some of these things are activities of middlemen and those who do the distribution. Consumers benefit from relatively affordable and accessible animal protein. So there are certain challenges in the value chain, the challenges of research and data, information about certain research. Many people at the level of the input level do not even have this information. And then the challenge of product quality. A lot of compromises around the value chain reduces product quality. So all these things pose opportunities for all of us. And then the challenges of processing and manufacturing capabilities, product branding and marketing. Some of you who are IT people, this is also a good opportunity. If you know how to do product branding, you see a farmer who is having difficulty in selling his goods. There's this advert I used to see on TV where somebody went and snapped some yams and put it on social media, and then somebody came up. Product branding and marketing. All right. These are all areas that you can use your digital skills, to improve the value chain and also earn money for yourself. And then transportation, access to strong commercial partnerships, including access to finance, and then identifying customers within a specific market. This is equally very, very critical. You have people who have products, they don't even know how to sell them. They don't even know who are their main customers, who are the main people that will come and buy these things for a fee. Some time ago or years ago, you go to our villages, you see what do you call it? Palm kernel, the back of palm kernel being wasted. People are just throwing it away. But today, those things sell for so much money. If you go to buy PKC now, you don't know how much a kg costs. All right. So these are challenges, and each of these challenges are also opportunities. And like I said, these things they translate to real opportunities for us at the input and production and distribution level, at the production level, at the processing and packaging level, even at the logistics level. And then when you provide digital solutions to some of these problems, not just, we are in a digital age now. So those of you who are savvy, IT savvy, how do you what kind of digital solutions can you provide to some of these problems that we are identifying? How do you create market linkages using digital solutions? It could even be an app. Create an app that can just link markets. I have just a few minutes, but I want to quickly talk about agriculture in the VUCA world. Francis, I hope I will have a few minutes to talk about this.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, can you still see my screen?
Yes, although it's not so, it's a bit further. Can you zoom in or?
Can you see the PowerPoint?
We can see it, but the images are the things that are not so clear.
Okay, because of time, we'll just talk about agriculture in the VUCA world. So VUCA means volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and disruption. That's what the acronym VUCA means. And after the advent of COVID-19, because of the kind of disruption that COVID-19 came with, people within the development sector, came up with this idea of VUCA. So if you look at the agricultural world, there's a lot of volatility in weather patterns that are unpredictable. So this year you have high temperature or low temperature, or high rainfall, low rainfall. All these things are affecting commodity prices, making commodity prices either rise and fall. So that's why it's volatile. And then uncertainty. Farmers no longer have assurance of stable seasons or markets. There's no assurance. There's uncertainty in policies, government policies, uncertainty in access to credit. In fact, you go to get access credit in the bank now, you pay as high as almost 30-something% of interest. Uncertainty in global supply chains. Those supply chains that worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. So uncertainties in pest and disease spread. So you have new emerging and re-emerging diseases, in every agricultural sector. And then a complexity. Agriculture is connected to different systems. It's connected to finance, connected to technology, connected to trade, connected to energy and environment. So if you have a fertilizer shortage in one part of the world, or there's energy crisis somewhere, it disrupts the entire food production system, even in remote villages. That's how the complexity of agriculture is today. And then the ambiguity, the signals are unclear. Whether farmers should invest in hybrid seeds, now we are talking about GMOs and all that, or they should just stick with indigenous varieties. You stick with indigenous varieties, you'll be left behind. If you go on hybrid varieties, there are a lot of permutations around the potency of the hybrid varieties. You use hybrid varieties today, when it is time for harvest, you cannot isolate good seeds and replant the next season and get the same result. So ambiguity. Should they adopt new technology, or they should just focus on traditional resilience methods? Ambiguity leaves many hesitant, and people are caught in between opportunities and risk. And then the disruptions from COVID-19. Imagine during the COVID-19 lockdown, if the lockdown has extended to maybe 3 months, I'm sure you know that many people will begin to die of hunger. And then conflict between Russia and Ukraine. These are places where you have high grain production. And then they tell you that the reason why grains are expensive now is because because of the war between Russia and Ukraine. You are here in Nigeria, you don't have any hand in the war, but their war is affecting the food that you are eating. And global economic downtowns have shown how quickly agricultural supply chains can collapse and leave the ordinary consumer struggling with food inflation and scarcity. And then the insecurity in most parts of the country. Farmers can no longer go to farm. People are afraid. You plant your crops, and then they bring their animals to come and feed on the crops and all that. So there's a lot of disruptions, including insecurity. But what are the pathways? The pathways, how do we survive in this kind of disruptions? Yesterday, remember, we talked about diversification. We should try as much as possible not to rely on a single crop or a single source of income. Do integrated crop farming with poultry, with fishery, or small scale processing, so that you can spread your risk. All right. And then do climate smart practices like we discussed yesterday. Use simple but effective measures, that will be able to cushion against any climate shocks that may occur. And then if you are a farmer and you don't belong to any cooperative, you may be in trouble. Belong to at least one cooperative, all right, or any farmers group, because aside financial linkages, you have access to certain information within the cooperative, and people would prefer to support cooperatives rather than supporting an individual. All right, so community cooperation, belonging to cooperatives, farmer groups, having like a savings scheme, it will help you to access credit, and it's also a safety net in times of difficulty. And then leveraging in technology, you can use technology to connect farmers to weather forecasts. I remember I've developed a proposal like that before, how you can use technology to connect farmers, let them have instant real-time information about weather forecasts. Use technology for markets, for extension services, help them make better decisions even in uncertain contexts. And then value addition. So instead of selling raw produce, you You can process them into flour, you can process them into oil, you can process them into dried goods to increase your income and also reduce the vulnerability to price swings. So if you have processed them, even if there's a swing in prices, it will give you some coverage so that you don't lose money. And then financial literacy and savings. When you build a small buffer through savings, through low risk investments, it gives you some level of resistance and resilience when there are disruptions. So as I conclude, agriculture in a VUCA world is not about avoiding storms. It's about learning to navigate through them. And for an ordinary man, the survival depends on how resilient you are, how you are able to adapt, and the kind of innovation that you bring to the table at both household and the community levels. So when we embrace this diversification, you embrace cooperatives, you embrace climate smart practices like we discussed yesterday, whether you are a farmer, or you are a trader, or you are a consumer, you can build some level of stability in the midst of global uncertainties. And food security will not come from eliminating challenges, but from cultivating the wisdom to thrive despite all these challenges. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening. I hope we have learned one or two things in this presentation. So, Frances.
Wow, this is a
Thank you
lot.
so much.
We want to open the floor for people to ask questions, make contributions, indicate by raising your hands up so that we can call you up to speak or ask your questions. Any question, comments? I know it's a lot, but I believe we have some contributions, some questions. I too have mine. But I would prefer to allow others to contribute. Okay, Ezine, you have the floor.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
okay,
we can hear you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, it's a very enlightening session. I was just wondering, are there like any kind of structured pathway that people that would like to come into the agricultural ecosystem, is there any kind of pathway that we can come in and invest, or come in and collectively gain value in the value chain, like someone like me now that has no experience and all that, but everything that I've learned today has opened my eye to the opportunities that there are, and especially the opportunities to improve the system. So something like, when we're talking about the parent birds, when you're talking about poultry, and if the parent beds are not healthy, then your hatchlings and to subsequently affect your stock, because they wouldn't increase in size as should be and all that. Is there a way that we can kind of localize these things so that we don't depend so much on imports? What are these company or these countries, these places that we have to rely to go and get healthy parent birds? Is there a way that we can maybe create some kind of avenue that we can start actually being having these healthy birds at home? And because every time I go out to the store, even big shops, and you're trying to buy good beds, they're like, oh, there's a problem in the border, oh, do you want local beds? Local beds are always kind of inferior. So why? What is the what's that differentiating factor? What's that thing that is making our beds not be able to get to that point? Is there a way we can help, or is there a way we can come in and change that, and everybody gets value from that kind of opportunity? So that's what I would like to know. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ezine. Doctor.
Thank you. Yeah, I will just respond briefly. The sector is a very complex sector, and there are a lot of compromises within the sector. A lot of compromises. Um, I'm sure you must have seen some videos where people are injecting their meat with all kinds of things to make the meat to swell. Even both beef and poultry, people inject them to make them swell and then increase the level of, by the time you weigh them, you see. So there are a lot of compromises within the sector. And it's important that we know that these things happen so that we are careful about the kind of meat that we, in fact, these days, there are meats in the store that are produced from the lab, laboratory produced meat. They didn't come from any animal. They produce them in the lab. So there are a lot of compromises within the sector. And that's why we are encouraging people, you that want to do the right thing, you can set up your own system. You can have your own linkages. These people who provide these things are not spiritual human. They are people they are human beings that we can relate to. You can go online. If you are interested in the parent stock, there are companies abroad that supply these things. But because of government regulations, they will expect you to have certain infrastructure in place before you are able to receive this parent stock. So it's something that we can discuss, but there are even other areas within the value chain that you can improve upon. All right. For now, we are talking about this issue of antibiotic antimicrobial resistance. How do you contribute to reducing or eliminating antimicrobial resistance in our time? You can have your own bed. Even if you are going to give them antibiotics, stick to the rules. What is the withdrawal period of the antibiotics? So if you are going to sell your beds tomorrow or in the next 1 week, you know that the withdrawal period of this particular antibiotic is 6 days or 7 days. You stick to it. 7 days before the time you dispose them, don't give them antibiotics. Then you are protecting the other people or protecting those who will consume them. So if you're interested in any of the value chain and you want us to take the discussion further, we can even discuss privately because of our time. So any other question or comment? Do you have any questions, any comments?
Thank you very much for your presentation, sir. And I want to make an observation, even though it should come in form of a question. Like the people we train in JOS, which we train them on plant farming. So most of them that plant their Irish potato. So they complained about termites eating all this kind. What did they call this worm? They complain that worm is disturbing their plants and it's not allowing it to grow. So what are they going to do? Are they just going to like cultivate it and replace the sand or what? They just need an idea on how they can take care of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And this is actually the idea behind some of these improved varieties that you are hearing about. And these are the justifications for improved varieties of seedlings. Seedlings that are resistant to pests, seedlings that are resistant to diseases. So if you are planting it's good to do like a soil analysis. And we mentioned that during the training. I think we did soil analysis. It's good to look at the soil, look at what are some of these things that can, for instance, in Abuja, we kept snails somewhere we made pens for them. and we couldn't survive the attack from ants. Despite all the things we used to control the ants, we still couldn't survive it. So it's important you do the soil analysis and then the seedlings. Get improved varieties of seedlings. I'm sure you saw some of the reports of those other people who planted potatoes, and they had bountiful harvest. So I think they should check, number one, the seeds that they planted. Are they local varieties or are they improved varieties? And then did they do the soil analysis to, if they have done soil analysis, they would have understood that those things pose a threat to planting of potatoes. So instead of that, they would have planted an alternative crop that those whatever is attacking the crops will not be able to attack them.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Oriya. Festus, you're up next.
All right. Thank you, Doctor, for this wonderful presentation. Of course, I know I've missed because I was not part of the meeting yesterday. But then the few I could get today is actually powerful. So thank you very much. So my question is this: when we talk about businesses or talk about a way to earn or a means to earn, we oftentimes quick to mention the benefits and what it will take and how. But then I most especially concerned about the risk and challenges in these businesses. Of course, you mentioned some of the challenges, which is of course there are general challenges like transportation, climate, and all. But then I am interested in specific risk and challenges. What do I mean by specific risk and challenges is that, okay, take for example, you mentioned a person that goes to Kano to get cows maybe at the rate of 150,000 and sell it at the rate of maybe 450. Wow, very beneficial. But then what are the risks in between buying and the selling? Of course, another example you mentioned when you were contracted to supply chicken to some hotel, and you said it almost got you to jail. What happened? So, as a supplier, as a trader, as a service provider or processor, what are the risks in this business?
Okay.
When I say
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, for the sake of our time, every business, you can mute your microphone. Every has its own risk. Every business. And the reason I said when I was supplying the chicks meat to that hotel, why I ran into trouble was I signed a contract, and at the time I signed that contract, I had already trained over 500 women, and majority of them had set up backyard poultry farms. So I already had somewhere that I could lift the birds from and supply the hotel. I already trained them, they're already keeping. Where I missed it is consistency. All right. So if you are keeping birds that will be sold out in 8 weeks, then it means if we have to have consistent supply, it means they have to be keeping, maybe when they have taken up to 4 weeks, then they put a new set, all right, so that as while this set is exiting, there's another set that is also ready. But I didn't do that. What I did was I just trained them. Once they already have the beds are ready. And then at some point, you had everybody coming with his own beds. I was overwhelmed. And then suddenly, many people at some point, I didn't get any supply. Either the chicks are not ready or some they have not restocked and all that. So that was the challenge. And then for the risk of the transport, the other one person that I mentioned that used to bring cattle from the far north to come and sell, yeah, there are risks involved, especially transportation risk. I'm sure you must have seen some accidents on the road where you see some of the cows spread on the ground, some are dead and all that. So these are some of the risks that are involved. All right. So sometimes the risk of disease outbreak, Yesterday, I told you we are setting up a piggery in Abuja. And if you look at the way I designed the piggery, I designed it with the mind that it's possible that you can have an outbreak. And if we design in such a way that if there's an outbreak in any of the pen on the left, it will not affect the pen on the right. We'll be able to protect those ones. So there are risks in every business, but there are also ways to mitigate those risks. I hope this response was helpful.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for the session and also responding to all the questions. I don't know if anyone has any comments, suggestions. Okay.
Okay, first of all, I want to use this opportunity to thank Dr. Abaji for another insight today. And because me, I'm interested in the processing aspect. But I understand that at times location matters. Even though you're going into agriculture, you look at the location. At least you understand the environment, the places where there are some certain places that we can find these enemies to crops. And instead of planting, maybe there is a particular environment, the habitats, you find so much enemies to potatoes. So instead of planting potatoes, you can as well go and do other varieties. Because if you end up doing that potato, so you to be on profit, you be at loss. And Dr. Abaji mentioned that. But I want to also ask, because most of these agricultural products, they are perishable. And in a situation whereby one has planted, one has harvested, and maybe you want to process, and these things are being harvested and kept in a particular place. Because yesterday we talked about food insecurity, and he advised instead of using some chemicals and all that, you can do a kind of mixed farming. There are some varieties of crop you can plant with each other, and that pest and all that will not be there. So what will you advise a farmer now that is trying to preserve that thing in order for it not to spoil at that point in time? Is it that we should not make use of those chemicals at all, or one can still make use of them at least in smaller quantity that can still not be so dangerous to the health also, or one should just do away with it when those things get spoiled? That is what I really want to know.
Okay, thank you very much. It depends on the kind of crop that you are talking about. But take for instance tomato. Okay, a lot of farmers used to lose a lot of money because they don't have the capacity to process tomato into paste. Okay, so things like this, or maybe corn, for instance. You can preserve corn, but when you use insecticides to preserve corn, you are also endangering those who are consuming it. So instead of using insecticide, what other alternative can you use? You use things like dry pepper. These ones are safe. Any grain at all, you can use dry pepper to preserve it instead of using those insecticides. People use DD-Force, to preserve. Those things are dangerous. People can eat these things if you don't wash them properly. It can kill. All right. So, but the most important thing is understanding the system and understanding the linkages, how those systems are linked. So if I'm expecting to harvest tomatoes, for instance, and I know that I don't have the capacity to process these tomatoes into paste, I would have, gotten, and that's why we're even having this kind of training. So you know that these farmers don't have capacity to process these things, and you have the information about how you can link them up to where they can process, or you have capacity to offtake these tomatoes to the places where they can process them into paste. That's where you make your money. So we try as much as possible to discourage any form of malpractice, no matter how you try to justify why you are doing that malpractice. Apply wisdom, apply knowledge, and provide that link. If you understand the value chain, that's critical. All right, it will solve some of these problems of trying to to do all those malpractices because you want to preserve the product or the produce rather. So have the knowledge of the linkages. Prepare your mind ahead of time. You know you don't have capacity to process. Even if there's nobody coming to help you to provide that linkage, begin to think about what will you do with these things? And there are so many other things you can do with them. All right. If you like, you just gather everything, send them to Lagos, put in motor, go and park in Ojuelegba and wait. You will see people that will come and meet you and say, Madam, how much is your tomato? Before it begins to spoil.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ria. One that even came up, a question or is it a comment that came up while you was the proliferation of substandardization, in the sense that people do whatever they please. Then I wonder, I know that for the drug related issues, we have the likes of NAFDAC. So who really controls or monitors standard in the agricultural sector? And for us who work in the sector, how do we begin to, although yes, this is an avenue, we are creating awareness on the essence and the impact of using of antibiotics in animal, even the sort of using of strong chemicals to preserve some crops. So how do young people, how do NGOs, how do people begin to cut down on these excesses? Because I know Kingsley mentioned yesterday in local areas, and I remember then in Jos, I remember that we used to pass through then a market called Katako Market, and you see them spraying things on beans and the rest to prevent weevils. And for us, it was looking like a normal thing. We didn't see it as wrong. We passed through it, but now we know better. So in terms of awareness creating action, of course we'll be doing that, but we want, if are there bodies who are into this, that way one can even partner with them to see how we can improve such information, passing information, because some people are doing it out of negligence, out of ignorance as well. So that's where my comment question is tending towards, if you have such information.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Francis. Yeah, of course, there are organizations that you can partner with, but the effectiveness and the efficiency of some of those organizations and to what extent they are willing to partner with other organizations is also another question. And then the level of corruption in the system is also another issue. Because, well, you could just go and bring somebody, you want to partner with somebody, and take, for instance, people who do pure water and bottled water, for instance. The day that NAFDAC is coming for inspection, they will package fat envelopes for them. I've seen it happen. They package fat envelopes, and some of them, even if they won't package fat envelopes, all the things that the NAFDAC requires before you set up your factory, at the beginning, they will set everything up. But the moment NAFDAC leaves, they send everybody away, they pay them off, and they continue doing their thing until the day they hear NAFDAC is going around again. They will now bring those people back. They will come and wear their uniforms as if they are workers. So there's a lot of problem, even when you try to make some of these things work, there are still areas that you still find frustration. But there's a part that you and I can play, and that's why we are focusing on this kind of training. So if we choose to do the right thing, if you are a farmer and you have crops and you say, my own crops, I'm not going to use this insecticide, or you say, my own birds, I'm not going to abuse antibiotics. That's for me, that's even more important, because the system is sophisticated. To tell you the truth, it's sophisticated. In Rwanda, I bought paracetamol, wanted to take paracetamol, and I removed 2 to take. And the person I was with at that time, I said, wow, what am I trying to do? He said, this is overdose. I said, how? In Nigeria, if you don't take 2 paracetamol, your headache will not go. He said, take only 1. This one is not Nigerian paracetamol. And that's the truth. In fact, now in Nigeria, I can't take paracetamol because it won't work for me. If I don't take Panadol extra, In fact, recently I had to take Dr. Isegwe is here. I'm sure he will understand. I had to take what's the name of this one that has caffeine, because you take these things, they don't even work for you. So you know where some of these things are coming from. Somebody will go to China and go and you will see the same kind of drug, but they have reduced the potency. And then they bring it here, you buy it for the same amount. But the potency and the efficacy has been compromised. So the system is very, very sophisticated. But there's a part that you and I can play, and which is why we are having this conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Very important. The critical part that we all can play, and that is what we are doing. We are aware and we're also taking action as well. I don't know if any other questions, if we have more people who have questions. If not, comments. If we don't have, I'll be rounding up the session then. So we talked about the agricultural value chain, which refers to the processes, activities that are involved in production, processing, distribution, consumption of agricultural products. And we also mentioned, our resource person also mentioned that there are several stages, and which starts from the farm and also ends at the table. And he mentioned some critical levels, which are the input supply stage, the farm production, the post-harvest handling, processing. We mentioned distribution and consumption. And in each of these levels, we highlighted the strengths and weaknesses of each of the levels. And one critical area was the fact that the agricultural value chain is quite complex. It has various stakeholders, from the farmers to the processors, to distributors, retailers, and then finally the consumers. And it is important that as we understand the value chain, it helps us identify the various opportunities and also areas where we can improve, areas where we can increase efficiency, areas where we can add values, and also areas where we can make profit from. And you mentioned that the largest profit margin are inputs, suppliers, and also those who are into trading, because for traders, they buy in bulk and they also redistribute. And for those who bear most of the grunts are the farmers, because they are the ones who do a lot of underground, who do a lot of things to ensure that the product is valuable for consumption and all that. So resource person also, Dr. Ria, also shared that there are a lot of challenges, which ranges from the quality of seed, also to the inputs, to provision of availability of finance, and ended up with the fact that in the agricultural sector, that in recent times, that there is the VOCAD. There's a term that has been couched, which translates to the volatility, the uncertainties, the complexities, and the ambiguities that comes with the agricultural sectors. And as young people, as individuals, as businessmen who are into agriculture, is important we know that these things are happening, and then be able to see how we can explore the sector for the benefit of all. So we really want to thank Dr. Maria for this insightful, interesting, practicable knowledge you have given to us. And I believe that each and every one of us was able to take one or two information, one or two things back home. We need to reflect, then we begin to take action. Taking action is the awareness. The other taking action is the fact that we should do a step down. You talk to your family members, your relatives, your staff, those you work with, your bosses. It's important as you interact, we begin to talk about these issues, and also it starts with us. That we can do something. Just one person taking action would actually transform the sector. So imagine that 22 of us here are able to do something positive in the sector, then there's the ripple effect at the end. So I really want to thank Dr. Ria for his time, and thank each and every one of us. We started together and we are ending together. It shows how interesting and how relevant this topic is, and I want to appreciate us all for being part of this discussion, for contributing and also listening as well. So as we end, as we go back, let's do what we are supposed to do, be ambassadors of agriculture, sustainable agriculture. Sustainable agriculture, that is the term. Let's be good ambassadors and ensure that whatever we do, we ensure that we follow the required standard, and we should ask the right questions. And we have at SCAAD Initiative, we have a WhatsApp group where you can be part of, you can ask your questions. We have experts also amongst us who would respond to us, who would also help out if there are challenges. I've posted the link on the platform. The slides and the video as well will be posted on the link. So thank you all. Thank you all for participating. Thank you, Dr. Maria, for sharing your immense wisdom and knowledge with us as well.
Thank you.
So see you next time.
All right. Thank you so much. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you, sir.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye.